Alrighty, welcome everybody. So I am such a goober. Okay, let me introduce myself first. My name is Julie Brown. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And I just got through doing my live, except I forgot to press the live button. So I literally just made 3 cards thinking I was talking to all of you, wondering why I wasn't seeing any comments, and then realized I had not hit my live button. So I am ready to redo all of these cards for you. I had to do some prep work, so it took me a little bit of time before I could just come straight back on. So anyway, welcome. If you are new to my Facebook Live, if you have any questions, you can type them in the comments. You can also say hello and let me know that you're here. But let me real quick take care of some what I call housekeeping information. So there you go. For those of you that place orders with me, there is the May Hostess code. You can order through me at juliebrown.stampinup.net. And then most importantly, if you don't see this on live, on my Facebook Live, but you're watching it on YouTube, or you want to watch it later on YouTube, you can go to my YouTube channel, which is Julie Brown Julie's Creative Stamping. Why would you want to go watch it on YouTube? Because that's where I put the free PDFs for all of the cards that you're going to see me do tonight. I will also eventually have them up on my blog with step-by-step instructions, and my blog is juliescreativestamping.com. Oh my gosh, you guys, I cannot believe I literally just did this tonight. So let's talk about Beauty of the Deep. So I told you guys we were going to be diving into card making tonight, and this is what I was talking about. It is called the Beauty of the Deep bundle. It's got this beautiful, distinctive stamp set that has all of these wonderful, it's got these coral, the seaweed. I call this the butterfly fish, and then the angel fish, and it's got some sea urchins and all sorts of really fun things. It also has this wonderful bundle that goes along with it, and it's got these 3 standalone dies that are detailed coral cutouts, and then everything else actually matches up with the stamp sets that are on here. So yay! Okay, I can't even believe that I did this. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to teach you a really fun technique using your silicone mat. And what we're going to be doing is using watercolor paper, and this is called the water wash technique. Now this is actually going to be used on the 3rd card that I'm doing tonight, but because this needs to dry, I'm going to show you this portion of the card. Then we're going to set it to the side to dry, and then we will be back at the end to put that card together. So even though I've already done this once tonight, guys, I cannot believe I did not hit the live record. So I apologize for all of you that were waiting and going, where the heck is she? Yeah, I didn't know either. So, okay, so the first thing that we need is the silicone mat. And then Stampin' Up! Has this really, really good watercolor paper. And we're going to be using this. It comes in a 5x7 sheet, which is perfect for what we're doing. And so let's get started. If I'm talking fast, it's because I've already done this once tonight. I'm such a goober. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm starting with Azure Afternoon, and I am actually going to be stamping directly onto the silicone mat. And so we're just going to stamp and get a really nice coverage of that on here. This is very messy, just so you know ahead of time. Fair warning. Then I'm going to shut that one, and I'm going to bring in my Orchid Oasis. I actually had to go like wash my hands too, because I'd already done this once and made a mess. Okay, so now we're coming in with the Orchid Oasis. It's picking that up. I do try not to touch up there, but it's really hard not to, because you really don't want to mix your 2 colors, as long as you don't do it too much. Okay, so once you have the ink on there, then what you're going to do is you are going to bring in one of our spritzers. These are our Stampin' spritzers, And you're going to wet this down really good, because what you want this to do is kind of bleed. And you want it to bleed into each other. So what I normally do is I will actually lift it and help it with the bleeding. See how it's now it's kind of moving up into that section? It's exactly what I want it to do. So then I'm going to come in with my watercolor paper and lay this down on top of here. One of the important things to remember is these silicone mats on one side, they have a little Stampin' Up emblem. You want that down. You want that face down. I may have got this really wet this time. Okay, and so I'm just kind of pushing on that. And now I'm going to lift it up. And then while it is still wet, we want to bring in some salt, yes, salt, and pour salt all over this thing. And it does need to kind of be the coarse salt. And you can see I am covering it. This actually does dry fairly quickly, but you want to get this salt on here while it's wet. And I don't know if you can see some of these salt pieces here. They actually pick up the color. So I'm going to set that to the side, and we will be back with that to do our last card. But I'm going to have to clean this up really quick. See if I can keep my hands clean. And so I'm not expecting a lot of you to be on with me live, but if you are, you can type in comments, type in questions. I was supposed to be on at 6, and I was. I just wasn't live. I'm telling you, I'm just a hot mess right now. Okay, so I'm going to clean that off, set this to the side to dry. I'm trying to keep my hands fairly clean, and then I actually want to come in and kind of clean all of this off. And then we are going to start our first simple stamping card with this set. So not too long ago, I had one of my customers say, Julie, I love your simple stamping, but what if I want to step it up a little bit? How would I do that? So I'm trying to get me a clean sheet here to bring in. All right. Sorry, guys. I'm a little discombobulated since I got started late. So here's my idea for you guys that want to still kind of go with the simple stamping theme, but you just kind of want to use a few other embellishments or tools that you might have. And so that's what this card is going to be. So we're going to start out and we're going to use this anchor card. Now, one of the great things about distinctive stamp sets is you don't have to color these in because they have the natural shading to them. The stamps are absolutely beautiful. And so these cards usually go together pretty quick. So I am going to come in with Night of Navy ink. This is actually also going to be a masculine card, which most of us are always in the search of. And so I'm going to come in and I'm going to stamp that right there. Now I want to bring this close up so that you guys can see. See, distinctive stamps make it look real. It makes it alive. It makes it pop. And that's why these distinctive stamps are so good for creating that background look. And also, like I showed you guys last week, how to do a simple stamping card where we stamped the seasonal branches and we used the flowers, but then we had to color in the flowers, right? And so that does take a little bit more time and effort to do something like that. Whereas if you're using a distinctive stamp or a stamp that has a solid image that you don't have to color in, then you can get it done a lot quicker. So then I'm going to bring in, I either call this dots or it's kind of like a sand look. So here we go. So I'm afraid I'm going to be talking to myself once again because I'm on so much later than I'm used to being on. But if you guys do catch me and you do come on, Give me a little shout out. Let me know you're here. Because, you know, it's always more fun to do this with somebody. All right, so I'm just going to take this and I'm just kind of stamping this kind of just in all over. And you'll see like I'm stamping off just to kind of catch some of these edges where I feel like, you know, I want to have, you know, something else there, but not full on. So you can come in, you know, in all of these little edges, and you're just going to do this until you are happy with the look of your card. So I think I kind of need a little bit something down here, and then we're going to come in right there. All right. And then I think that's good. So let's get rid of that Night of Navy ink. I'm still laughing at myself. So for those of you just joining me, I actually was on at 6. I just forgot to click the live record button. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, I should have already done this before I got rid of that. Okay. So for the inside, we are going to stamp the, that anchor again in this bottom corner. And then the stamp set for this stamp set does not have sentiments in it. So the stamp set that I decided to use with it is one it's in the annual catalog. It's not one of the new sets. It's the Waves of Inspiration, because it has some really fun sentiments that can go along with what I'm doing here. So I'm going to use the happy birthday on the front, and then I'm going to use this You're So Totally Awesome on the inside. And that comes from the Waves of Inspiration. So I combined the Waves of Inspiration with the Beauty of the Deep stamp set for this one. Okay, so I'm going to bring that in. I keep shutting my Night of Navy ink and putting it to the side. Okay, I just need to take a breath, and I need to quit rushing because I know this is going to go late because I still have to upload it to my YouTube channel. And I'm so sorry for those of you that were on at 6 and were wondering where the heck I was. I don't know, guys. Life has been a little crazy for me lately. Okay, so we're gonna, I see what I did. I didn't get that. Now there's 2 ways you can fix this. You can turn it over and stamp it, which is what I'm gonna do. Or you could bring in your marker and write in the A. I'm not gonna do that. This time I'm going to make sure I have that A inked up good. All right, much better. Now I got to bring back the anchor in. I didn't make all these mistakes the first time tonight. But you will never know, right? Because you didn't get to see that one. I could have made mistakes. Oh, I'm so glad I can laugh at myself, guys. All right, so let's clean these up, get them out of the way. All right, so I'm going to show you like the simple stamping idea. So for those of you that are doing simple stamping, and simple stamping, guys, it just basically means that you need the simplest of supplies to do the card. So you need a stamp set, you need some ink, you need some cardstock, and that's what I have here. I have Night of Navy cardstock, I have basic white cardstock, and I have Night of Navy ink, and I have a stamp set. And that's all you need to make a beautiful card. Okay, so if I were going to do this the simple stamping way, which I've showed you guys a million times, basically I would just come in with a Night of Navy strip, and then like a whisper white, I still do that, with a basic white strip that has the sentiment stamped on it, and I would be done. But because someone asked me, how would you step this up a little bit? Let's say, you know, I want to step it up because I have a die set now. I have some ribbon now. So that's what I wanted to show you today was to take these simple stamping cards and just like, we're gonna just go the next step up. So what I did was on this strip, I actually used my embossing buddy first and wiped it. And then I stamped this with Versamark ink, and then I heated it up and I did heat embossing on this. And so now I'm going to bring in, remember that Waves of Inspiration stamp set? Well, it also has some really fun dies that match up with that. And I'm going to use this die right here to cut this out. So I'm going to line this up before I put it on my die cut machine. And I'm just going to use some Post-it notes to hold that in place. We're going to bring in my mini Stampin' Cut machine. Maybe, if I can find the other. And guys, please ignore my nasty. These come so clear and so pretty, but I use mine so much between the classes that I do and all of the cards that I show you guys on Wednesday nights, that my die cut machines and these poor little plates get lots of use. And so I try to make them stretch as much as I can. And so I apologize for all of the, but it just goes to show you, they can be so totally beat up and still work great. So that, I guess that's a good selling point for these, right? And if you knew like how often mine got used, you would be in shock that they're not worse than they are. Okay, so look how cute that little label. It's got stitching around it, and it's got the holes in the middle. And so let me put that back so I don't lose any of those pieces. And then what I'm going to do is, we've got this new Night of Navy, and I think it's called bordered ribbon. Guys, look at this ribbon. It's got like a shimmer to it. It's so, if you guys haven't gotten this ribbon, it's beautiful, and it can be used with so many different colors. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I am going to squeeze it through here. Alrighty, well, maybe. And then we're going to come up on this other side and we're going to squeeze it through that side. So you can either like do what I'm doing and fold it, or you can bring in your take your pick tool and you can actually just kind of push it through with your take a pick tool to get a hold of it. So another good use for your take your pick. Hi, Patty. Oh my gosh. So you just joined me. So I actually started this at 6 tonight, and I forgot to hit my record button and my live button. So I literally made these cards already. And then I was just ending and I went to go up and push the stop recording and stop the live and realized I had never pushed the button. So that's why I'm on so late tonight, because, you know, it's me. Okay, so now we're going to just come in with my Stampin' Sale Plus. And we're going to wrap this around and wrap this around here. Okay, and again, I am using the Beauty of the Deep bundle. All right, and then we're going to just add some more Stampin' Sale Plus. So Patty, if you missed the beginning of this, I did a water wash technique that's drying right now that I'm going to be using on the last card. So when this is all over, you'll want to go back and look at that. All right, and then I'm just going to lay this down. All right, guys, so I hope that answers the question that I had from some of my customers on, you know, if I don't want to just use the cardstock, you know, how I do my simple stamping, I just add that piece of cardstock. This is a way, if you have some dies and you have some labels and you have some embossing powder, it's a way to step that up a little bit. So this is kind of the next step up from simple stamping, because I did use dies, I did use ribbons, and I did use embossing. So there's the first one. Happy birthday, you're totally awesome, with the anchor on the inside. So really great masculine card, which is something that we're always looking for. Okay, card 2. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I've got lots of parts and pieces from this set, but we're gonna do quite a bit of blending for this card, and I'm gonna go kind of fast again because, you know, I had some of this prepped ahead of time the first time I ran through this tonight. And so I'm pulling in Blueberry Bushel and Azure Afternoon. And I'm going to use, Blueberry Bushel is a little bit of a deeper blue. So I'm actually going to make that kind of like the bottom of my ocean. For this card, we're actually going to be making an ocean scene. And so I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to blend this. Okay. And again, I'm just coming in. And so a lot of times when you're blending, what you're looking for is you're looking to get kind of that, the look that you're looking for. So I will usually do like a little bit of the first color, and then I'll go ahead and bring in my next color, because that's what's really going to tell me, like, do I want it to be darker or not? So now I'm going to bring in this color, and this is the Azure Afternoon. You can see these two go together actually really well. So again, I'm just kind of filling in, and I really don't want it to be like super dark on the top, because if you're ever in an ocean, it gets darker as you go down. So I think I'm done with that color, but I do want to kind of come in with the Blueberry Bushel again. And I want to make this a little darker down here. So I want to make the whole transition a little bit darker. All right, so I'm coming in. And you know, this is all subjective to you and like how it looks to you. So some people might want to keep it very light. Some people may, you know, may want all just one color. Maybe they just want Blueberry Bushel. Maybe they just want the Azure Afternoon. And so you can see that the more I do this, the darker this bottom gets, okay? So I think that's actually going to work just like that. So we're going to put these away. And then what I did was I stamped the seaweed. So let me set that to the side. So I pre-stamped and cut out this seaweed. Well, when I started putting the seaweed on there, the white was just a little too stark for me for what I was looking for, because I was trying to do like a whole underwater scene. And so I have these three that I did in the Lemon Lime Twist, and these two that I did in the Granny Apple Green. So again, I am going to be coming in with blending brushes. Let me move these two out of the way. And for those of you that aren't aware, blending brushes, you can rinse these and you can use it on a completely different color. But because I use blending brushes quite a bit, I have a couple for green, a couple for blue, and then I'll just rinse them between and then I use them back. So this is my Granny Apple Green. So I'm just going to pick this up, and I'm actually going to go ahead and blend that color onto there, because again, I want this to have that underwater look. All right, so that's my Granny Apple Green. This one is a Granny Apple Green. So again, I'm just coming in. And if you like it with the white and you think that you might like that on the card that I'm fixing to show you, then do it. Do what you like. If you don't want to blend it, you absolutely do not have to. But I'm actually, at the end of this, I will show you a card that I did. So this one is going to be kind of a 3D version of Under the Sea. And then the other card is going to be my stamped version, kind of like a simple stamping version of this same card. obviously not as in-depth as this one, but kind of this, you know, because I just wanted to show you guys how you can do it both ways by either using the die set or stamping. So this is Lemon Lime Twist, which is one of our returning colors. And you might not be able to see it, but let me put these next to each other. You can see that they're just a tad shade difference. Not much, but this one is a little bit darker than this one. And if you wanted this to be darker, you would just bring in that blending brush from the Granny Apple Green, and you would just make this darker. All right. So let me finish up with these other two, and then we're going to be ready to put this card together. While my water wash from the beginning of this video is drying. All right, so again, and the cool thing about this too is, you know, if I were to just be really, like, do this really light, I could even make this even a different shade. So your blending can help you with bringing in contrasting shades of colors. So see how I didn't do that one quite as dark, and it's just a tad bit lighter. I don't know if I want it to be that way, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in some more. Okay, so done with that. I'm trying to move colors out of my way as I use them so I don't stick my hand in them. Let me put those blending brushes back in my stand over here. So I keep grabbing the end of those blending brushes and it's getting all over my hand. Okay, so now we are ready to create our scene. So we're going to turn that over. And I decided to use Smoky Slate. Oh, I think I'm going to need a scrap of Smoky Slate. So hold on one quick second while I find that, because I forgot to grab that out. I had it cut perfectly earlier for what I needed, but then, you know, then I messed up. Okay, I think that's it. Yeah, that looks like right. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to build this card front. And what we're going to do is we are going to bring in this first piece that we blended. And we're going to stick that on here. So Patty, is it windy in Wyoming? It's been so windy here. I used to live in Casper, Wyoming, and all I remember of it is that the wind blew all the time there. So I'm not sure if that's the case for all of Wyoming or if that's something special just for Casper. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my 3 Lemon Lime Twist seaweeds. And I'm going to just glue them across. And I'm going to bring in another silicone mat to do my gluing on so I don't get my paper all gluey. All right. Sorry, I'm going to bring in my liquid glue, and I'm just going to kind of put a few dots of glue. I always tell people this is not like the crafting glue that you used in school where you needed a pound of it to make something stick. This glue actually adheres very well. Sometimes you do have to hold it down a little bit when you're being real sparing like I am right now. But once it takes hold, it takes hold. But that's kind of the cool thing about this glue is it allows you to have a little bit of wiggle room when you're trying to place things down to get them where you want them before it's so solid that you can't get it up off the paper. So one of the reasons I like this glue. Alrighty. So hopefully I'm still transmitting. I'm getting a little paranoid about it because last week my internet crashed in the middle of my recording. This week it was my fault because because I forgot to press the record button or the live button. Okay, so then what I'm going to do with these Granny Apple Green ones to give this card some dimension is I'm going to bring in our mini dimensionals, and I'm just going to put a few of these dimensionals up this seaweed. And you'll understand why I'm doing this when I start to get our fun little fish on there, because I'm trying to create a kind of a coral reef in the seaweed atmosphere. Okay, great. You can hear me fine. Glad to hear. Thank you, Patty. I'm just glad a person's on here because, like I said, I talked for, you know, an hour showing these cards earlier. All right, so I'm going to stick this one. And hopefully you guys can already kind of start to see. Wyoming is windy and cold. Oh, wow, you've barely seen the 60s. You had a snowy winter. Oh, my goodness. But see how, you guys can, I think, even see it from there, how that just gives it, when you use dimensionals, it just gives this a really cool look. And I've always told people that if you're, you know, if you're designing a card and it just seems kind of flat to you and you're using die cuts where you've die cut things out and you're just not really liking it, try popping up some of the pieces and giving some dimension to your card. Because I mean, you'd be shocked at what a difference it can make. Okay, so I'm going to do another little sliver here for this end piece, maybe. All right, come on. It wasn't wanting to play. There we go. So I'm just using my take your pick tool to pull off the tops. These are double-sided, I think some of you know them as pop dots. We call them dimensionals in the Stampin' Up world. All right, so there's that. Okay, so I think I can move this because I'm pretty sure the rest of this is not going to be hard to get glued on. So the first thing that I want to do is I cut out all these. Let me show you all these little fun pieces. So I stamped and cut out all these little fish. Guys, don't you love this sea urchin? Isn't that adorable? Excuse my nasty fingers. Again, that first water wash technique that I did earlier, it gets your hands pretty messy. Anyway, aren't these just super cute? Okay, so what I want to do is I want to put this in the corner, but because this is popped up, I want to make sure that I only put dimensionals on this side. That way it's going to keep it level and it won't look, you know, all cattywampus on my card. So I kind of work with this a little bit just to kind of see the places that would be best for me to put my dimensionals. And then it looks like I'm going to put some liquid glue like right here and right here. So we've got that, we've got that. And then we're going to pull off those dimensionals. Whoopsies, I almost ripped that. Be careful. Be a little careful so you don't tear your die cut. Whoops, I think I wanted that a little more. Oh, let's see, like right there. Trying to remember where I put my glue. All right. All right, so there's that. So next we're going to put a little sea urchin. And basically kind of what I'm doing with this is I'm kind of covering these tips on these seaweeds because I didn't like really put anything down here to like designate that this is the bottom of the ocean. I could have probably stamped, it's got this little, like the stamp that I used for this, I could have stamped across there and that probably would have looked cool. But because I was using die cuts, I kind of figured it wasn't really going to cover it up anyway. So I'm going to bring in another sea urchin. So one of the reasons that I like this set so much is because I live in the desert. It's so funny because I hear ladies that live here in New Mexico with me say all the time, you know, I just don't know what I would do with an ocean stamp set because I don't live in the ocean. You know, but for me, it's about, I love the ocean, and when I go to California, I love spending time at the ocean, and this just brings back those memories for me. And so I think that is part of card making, is to incorporate some of what you create into some of the memories that you've had in your life. And you know, and so for me, I don't have to live by the ocean to like ocean stamps. It's about creating a vision or creating a dream for somebody maybe. Okay, so one of the things that I really wanted to do with this set was create the illusion that these fish were swimming in and out of the seaweed. So I'm actually going to push his little face underneath this seaweed right here. And that was the Coastal Cabana one. And then this one is an Orchid Oasis fish. And I'm going to bring him, and he's going to be coming out of the seaweed down here. So this one's a little trickier to get in place. Again, because I'm using liquid glue, I can move him around. But so this one, I'm going to kind of stick his tail behind there, and then his little nose behind here to make it look like he's fixing to go in and out of the seaweed. So I'm actually kind of creating movement where there is no movement. It's the illusion of the movement. So we're going to stick that one there, and then we're going to come in. Again, I call this the butterfly. It's actually, I think it's actually called a butterfly angelfish, but I call the little ones angelfish, and I call this one the butterfly fish. And so this one, I'm going to kind of put the body in this section where it has no dimensionals. And then we're going to add just a little bit of liquid glue up here at the top and pull this off. And then we're going to stick this one right like so. So again, so this one is kind of swimming in front of the seaweed. This one's behind, and this one's coming out. So, so much fun. All right, so I'm going to do the inside before I finish the sentiment on the outside. So for the inside of this one, I'm going to bring that anchor back in, and I'm going to use Smoky Slate, which is what I used for the anchor here. And I am going to stamp this in the corner down here. And then because this stamp set does not have sentiments to go with it, I never stress too much about that because I love sentiment stamp sets, so I have a ton of them. But I wanted to use the Charming sentiments for this one for a couple of reasons. One is because it has some really cool dies that do what we call fussy cutting. It basically does the fussy cutting for us because the dies actually cut out the sentiments. But for the inside, I don't need it to do that. Sorry. I try to always keep my lid on my liquid glue because it will dry up in that top little section and make it a little more difficult for you to get your glue out. Another little tip. Okay, so this is going to say, because you totally deserve it. And this is going to be the inside of our card. Now, the first time I did this card, I just had an open house. And the first time I did this card, I used Mossy Meadow and Old Olive, which I kind of liked the look of it because it gave it a more realistic look. But I wanted it to be brighter this time. And so I decided to change it up and use the Granny Apple Green and the Lemon Lime Twist. Okay. So to finish off the top of this, I know this is a huge sheet and I do not need it to be this big, but I had to grab a scrap piece really quick. And so for this one, we're going to stamp. And again, this is all part of that Charming Sentiments stamp set, which it's been around for a little bit. It's this one right here. And it has the sentiment silhouette dies that actually cut around all of these sentiments for you. And I'm going to show you that, how that works in just a hot second. Okay, so let's get this inked up. Whoops. And because I'm using such a big piece, I don't have to worry about how straight I stamped that, because I'm fixing to cut that out anyway. And so I don't have to worry about the straightness. It's only when you're stamping on the white, on the inside of your card. So I'm just gonna snip this really quick just to make this a little bit easier. Okay, so these are what the dies look like for that set. It's got 2 sets of them, plus it's got some fun little like stars and flowers and all sorts of fun stuff. But all of these like cut out those sentiments. And for those of us that have been stamping for many, many years and having to cut around, when we fussy cut, it's about taking our scissors, and I know you guys have seen me do it, and you just cut around the words. Well, these dies do that for us. I know, it's like, whoa, it's like, seriously, the heavens opened, right? And all of us thought, oh my gosh, that's a miracle. Because so many of us, I don't know about you guys, but cutting is not my favorite thing to do. And you guys have heard me say it before, I didn't even play with paper dolls because that's how much I hated to cut things. If my mom got me the ones that you could punch out, I played with them. If she got me the ones that had to be like cut out, it was a no-go for me. Now that I'm older and now that I do card making, I'm better at cutting things out by hand. But when I was younger, it was not happening. So again, excuse the messiness of my poor little die cut machine. It just gets so much work. I definitely put these things to the test. If they're gonna break, if they're gonna mess up, I'll be the one that figures it out, because I make so many cards and so many people use my machines. So, all right, so let's stick that in there. And let me show you how cool this is. Because this, normally I would have been cutting around that, but look at that. It did the cutting for me. Oh, right? It's like seriously, it's like a miracle for those of us that have spent years, what we call fussy cutting, around these things. All right. So I'm going to kind of lay this flat. And then I'm just simply going to stick this on the top of this. And voila, this is done. Now you could add some sequins in here to give it some bling, but what do you guys think? Is that kind of a, like, under the sea, diving deep? Makes you feel like you're in a coral reef swimming? I mean, come on, use your imagination. Okay, so it says, wishing you the happiest of birthdays because you totally deserve it. All right, so I'm going to show you the one that I did earlier that was with the Mossy Meadow. So can you see the difference? So, you know, I'd like to hear from you guys. Which one do you like better? Do you like the more bright colors, the Granny Apple Green and the Lemon Lime Twist, or do you like the Mossy Meadow and the Old Olive, which is this one? So I have done them in 2 different colors. The fish and everything are the same colors. So it was kind of a good way to really take a look at how those colors looked. So there you go. There's those 2. All right, so now I'm going to bring in that water wash back in. And remember, I poured salt on it. So this is what it looked like when you last saw it. And now I'm going to wipe all that salt off. And I'll show you what that does. Now, some of that salt does kind of stick to it a little bit. And so you just got to make sure that you get it all off. But what that salt does is it actually picks up some of the color. So let me bring that back in and show you. So can you guys see the top of this where it's got, so that's where all the salt was sitting. And you can really see it up here. But see all these little tiny dots? That was the salt sitting there. And it picked up color and gave it this really cool dimensional look on there. And you've got to do it when it's wet. And so that's why I did that whole beginning. So now we're going to cut this down so that we can get our last card done. And the way that I cut this is I just kind of go to where the color is and I cut. I'm going to end up cutting it down to a 3 3/4 by 5. But what I want to do first is kind of get those edges off and kind of see what part of this I want to have. And so because I didn't get any color down here in this section, I'm going to cut this little bit off. And all of these little pieces that I'm cutting off, you can use on the inside of a card. You can add it to, you know, you guys have seen me use scraps. These are scraps that you could use as well. Okay, so now I'm trying to figure out, so it needs to be, I'm trying to think, 3 3/4 this way. And so I'm going to be cutting off this top section. I'm trying to decide. I actually kind of want some of that top because the up here is kind of where the salt really took hold. So again, I'm going to trim some of that off. And then I think I'm going to turn it this way so that I get the most of that salt effect in here. And we're going to cut that off because that's, I hope that was 3 3/4 and I didn't just mess that up. And then we're going to do it by 5. Alrighty. So 3 3/4 by 5 is what I cut that down to. And so now we're going to build this whole fun scene. And with this scene, I used a lot of those standalone dies, which are really fun. And so let me show you what I cut out with those. I did cut out like Stampin' cut out, but look at these corals that cut out with those dies. Aren't those fun? Oh my gosh, it's got these little tiny ones. It's got the bigger ones. And then I already stamped and cut out some fish. Okay. So let's get this card put together. Again, once you do that water wash and you set it to the side to dry, and you die cut these out, this card actually surprisingly goes together really fast. It's just the drying process that you have to wait for. So I'm going to go ahead and take this Granny Apple Green piece, and this is my mat. And so I know a lot of you like to try to save some cardstock, and especially this, I think this is one of the big pet peeves of all of us, is that when I'm trying to mat something, sometimes it feels wasteful, right? Because I'm using this whole sheet, and then I'm going to put this on top of it, and so I'm only really seeing the edges. Well, here's a tip. If you have some die cuts, some squares, some circles, some stars, or some punches, you can punch the middle of this out and save it for use later, because this will cover up any of those punches or die cutting that you've done. So I just know a lot of people, it really bothers them. So I just wanted to give you that quick tip. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run some Stampin' Seal Plus on the edges here. And this is the Parakeet Party metallic woven ribbon. This Parakeet Party is one of the in colors that came out last year. And this metallic ribbon is so much fun because, you know, it's shiny and it lays really flat. It ties really good ribbon. I like this ribbon because you can tie ribbons with it. You know, it lays flat when you want to do something like this, but it also, look, it's shiny and it gives it just some bling. All right. so now we're going to just put some more Stampin' Seal Plus. So just so you know, this watercolor paper is kind of thick. It's a lot thicker than our cardstock. So I don't want you to be surprised by the texture if you've never used it before. So we're going to just try to lay this down like so. Alrighty. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start putting these pieces on. And so I'm going to bring back in my silicone mat because I'm going to be doing quite a bit of gluing. And this time I'm going to bring in this fine tip bottle. This is a bottle that I got on Amazon, and you get like 10 in a pack. And I just take my Tombow liquid glue and I just put it in this. So I'm going to start with the Granny Apple Green one. And we're just going to just put some glue. Now, if I had been smart, I would have put our adhesive. We've got these adhesive sheets that you can put on the back of the cardstock before you cut out these dies. Then, when you get ready to lay the die down, you can actually just pull the adhesive sheet off the back of this, and it becomes a sticker. And then you don't have to worry about the glue. So I'm not quite centering this. I'm putting it to the, just a little to the right of center. But you guys saw I just put little dots. And again, like I said, you do have to kind of hold it down a little bit. There's pluses and minuses with the liquid glue. One of the big pluses is that it doesn't set like super fast. But that can also be a default, because then you have to kind of, like what I've been doing, push down and make sure it takes hold. But the nice thing about that is that it gives you a little bit of wiggle room so that you have some time to set everything in the place that you like it without having it completely stick like solid. And then you start trying to tear it up, and you either tear, I mean, look how delicate this is. You would either be tearing this apart or tearing up this beautiful water wash that you did on this page. All right, so now we're going to lay this down. And the other thing you have to remember, that the more layers that you're putting on top, the less glue you have to worry about on these bottom pieces, because they're definitely being glued down. Okay, so now we're going to bring in these little pieces. And again, I wish I had put some adhesive strips on the back of the cardstock before I cut this out, because then I wouldn't have to be using this glue. I'm going to bring in some tweezers here because it just helps me to pick it up. And we're going to put this down over here. Well, maybe. The issue now is that because I've done several of these cards tonight, I've tried to get all the glue off my hand, but I still have glue on my hand. All right, so here we go again. All right, and then this is going to be our next piece. Whoops. And I'm going to move that over here. And then I wanted to bring in not a lot of Calypso coral, but just enough to, you know, just bring in like a little more depth in, you know, and these are the colors that you truly see. I mean, I've been scuba diving, and these are the, you know, you do see these bright, beautiful colors down there in the ocean. And so I really kind of wanted to simulate those times. And then this one's going to be our last one here. And then we're going to add a couple of fish and a sentiment and stamp the inside. And then we're going to be done in just not too long. All right, so this one, I think I want to kind of go on the right side of that. Aren't these colors they just pop, don't they? They just look so pretty with this water wash. I just really, really like this. All right, so I have these little pieces here. and I did the butterfly fish in Calypso Coral and the 2 angelfish in Orchid Oasis and Azure Afternoon. And so this Azure Afternoon one, I'm going to, oh, here, let me just, I've already got this open. So I'm going to just bring in my glue, stick that on there, and then I want this one to be swimming in front of the coral. All right, and this one's going to be swimming outside the coral reef, which if you've ever swam around coral reefs, that's exactly what these fish do. They're in and out, in and out, in and out the whole time. And then this one I'm going to pop up. I think I'm going to use a regular dimensional if I can find one here real quick, just so I only have to put one on here. I think a big one will fit. It sure will. Okay, so this one again, I mean, and it's not like I really needed dimension because this is already giving it dimension, but I just thought it would be fun to add some dimension there. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside while I stamp and get the sentiment strips done. So basically I just have a piece of basic white, and I'm going to use that Azure Afternoon if I can find it. And I'm going to use this time I used the Wonderful Thoughts. I think I have it here somewhere. Yes. This is another one of the new stamp sets, and it's the Wonderful Thoughts, and it does the same thing as the Charming Sentiments because it has the little dies that will cut all of these out. But I didn't need the dies for this one because I was just matting this one. But it's another really cool set. Oh my gosh. That is what you try not to do. All right. So now let's see if I can get this straight. No pressure, right? Ah, yay. Okay. And let's clean this up. Sorry for that squeaky noise. One thing I do want to point out about these photopolymer stamps, a lot of people panic because let me show you. Can you see this one where it has kind of a red tint to it? The more you use them, the more they actually take on the color. This does not affect the way that they stamp. They will still stamp great, and it's not going to carry those colors on. Once you clean them, you can see it's stamping completely clear. So for those of, I've had calls before where some of my ladies have thought they have ruined their polymer stamps because they can't get them clean. They're holding on to color, but it's the nature of those photopolymer stamps to do that. So don't panic when yours do that. Now it is important that you do clean them. But you know, clean them, stamp them, make sure that they're clear. But they are going to hold some color. There's just no way to get around them holding some color. Oh, I think I did not set that down well at all. So one thing I've learned to do with this Stampin' Seal Plus, because this stuff does grab on like a champ, is I have learned not to push it down completely until it is where I want it. And then that allows me to keep kind of adjusting so that I can get it one as straight as I can and as even as I can. All right, so there's that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm actually going to kind of put them on this line and this line. I'm going to leave this little alley in the middle so that this strip, this ribbon that I've put on here, has a little alleyway for it to fit into. Because, I mean, this is a pretty flat ribbon, so it's not like it would affect it a bunch. But if you had a thick ribbon that raised itself up quite a bit, and then you tried to put this, you know, something with dimensionals, and like part of your dimensionals were here and part of it was on the ribbon, it would actually not sit level because of if the ribbon has too much dimension to it. you want to kind of make sure that your dimensionals don't touch the ribbon. And so that's why I leave this little alleyway. Even though this is a pretty flat ribbon, I'm in the habit of doing it now. So that is just what I do almost every single time. Whoops. All right, so let me, sometimes I think I have it straight, and then, okay, so then that's going to be like that. I've got a finishing touches to put on that, but let me grab the inside. So what I wanted to do on the inside was bring in that Calypso Coral, and we're going to stamp 3 of these butterfly fishes along the bottom edge to basically finish this card up. I just, you know, these are, like I said, they're distinctive stamps. I want to bring this closer so you can actually see this fish close up. Guys, look at these distinctive stamps. I mean, they look real. I love distinctive stamps. And I'll show you how to tell if they're distinctive real quick. So in the catalog, so this is on page 112, see right down here in this little corner, it says distinctive. That's how you know when you're going to get those distinctive features in your stamp. Stampin' Up! Does give you a heads up. They do try to tell you, hey, this is a distinctive stamp. And it's going to make it look real when you stamp with it. Okay, and so for the inside sentiment, since I put congratulations on the outside, on the inside, I'm going to put, you can do amazing things. Because I think this would be kind of a fun card to give to somebody that is either moving to a new place, starting a new job, you know, going off to college, going off to anywhere. It would just be a real pick-me-up to remind them, hey, you can do anything. All things are possible. Because, you know, when people are making moves and they're starting a new chapter in their lives, it can be scary, but it can also be fun and exciting. All right, let me clean that off. And then let me put that on the inside of this card. And then I'm just going to finish this up with, unfortunately, some embellishments that have retired. But when I designed this card, I did not have, it was during our pre-order. And this was one of the cards I did during our pre-order, and I wasn't able to order a lot of the new embellishments. So I didn't have the new embellishments yet. I still had the old ones, but if you guys have these are so pretty. They're the adhesive back sequences and gems, and I just wanted to use this color down here to kind of add a little bit of interest and bling and fun. And this is where I bring in my putty end, because my putty end picks up these adhesive back sequences really good. So I'm just going to grab one, and then I'm going to stick one right there on the on that sentiment. And then we're just going to start placing these kind of, you know, throughout. Oops. Except I actually need one to stick to me. I hope that's just, was that 1 or 2? That was 1. And then we're going to stick one there. And we always try to do kind of odd numbers because for some reason our eyes like odd numbers. So basically I'm just going to put like 7 of them on there. Alrighty. And so there you go. What do you think? Do you like that water wash technique? And when we added those bright colors, didn't that just make this card pop? So it says, congratulations, you can do amazing things. All right, so let's bring in our 3 cards that we did tonight. So this was my casual, this was my avid, and this was my stepped up simple as per request of you guys. You guys wanted to see how to take a simple stamping card and step it up by just adding maybe a die or some ribbon or some of that stuff. So there you go, guys. There's your 3 cards for tonight. I apologize for the lateness of this video. Again, I did start at 6, but I forgot to hit record. So, oh my goodness. So anyway, I hope that I taught you what the potentials of this set can be and that you saw something that you liked. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, I'm going to put my information up really quick. You can order through me at juliebrown.stampinup.net. Don't forget, on my YouTube channel, I will upload this video and then I will have PDFs that you can download of all 3 of these cards. But you do have to put in my name, Julie Brown, and then a dot, and then Julie's Creative Stamping to find my YouTube channel. And then if you subscribe to my channel, every time I upload a video, it'll let you know. And then if I usually try to put PDFs on there, but if I don't have the PDFs there, then you'll need to check out my blog at juliescreativestamping.com because they will definitely be there. All right. Guys, thank you. Patty, especially you, thank you for being with me tonight. Made me feel good to see somebody come on because I literally did these cards once tonight and nobody was saying anything. And I'm like, what is going on? You would have thought I would have looked up and saw the big red button that I was supposed to push, but I missed it. So anyway, as usual, thank you for your time. Whether you're watching this live or watching your replay, I appreciate you taking the time to watch the cards that I create, and I love hearing from you. So make sure that you comment, subscribe, follow, all of that good stuff. That way you'll know anytime that I'm adding any cards to whether it's my Facebook Live or my YouTube channel. Anyway, guys, have a good night. I know it's like, what, 8:37? I should already be done. Actually, I should have already have this uploaded to my YouTube, but that's going to take me a little longer tonight now. So anyway, guys, have a great night. Patty, thank you so much for being with me tonight. I greatly appreciate your comments. And it's always a lot more fun to have somebody hanging out with me while I'm doing this. So everybody have a good night. Appreciate your time. And yeah, don't forget, you can always put comments in later and I'll see them. So talk to everybody soon. And especially don't forget, those of you coming to my card class, it is Thursday at 10 a.m. or Thursday at 5:30. So hopefully I'll see some of you Thursday. That's tomorrow. Talk to you later. Bye.